something we've been wanting to do for a long time now. And this isn't even the original subject.
No, not even close.
But my buddy Tavit's going to join us today. He brought his 450, parked it next to my 450. So that is what our topic is going to be today. Follow Tavit on pretty much everything. I'm an operator, either YouTube, he'd post more, or Instagram. Right. So we're going to talk about probably the biggest debate that's going on lately. Why is everybody kind of leaning towards Fords? What has Dodge been lacking? That's probably a big subject right there.
Massive.
Because everybody that we know, it's funny when guys come from out of town and they see how many Dodges run around in this community, which I didn't really think about.
Dude, my whole street's Dodges.
Yeah.
There's things like there's maybe 2 Fords down the whole road.
Austin's got 2 of them.
3.
The old man's got one, my old man, and just every rancher around here, there's an old grandma right down the street. She
They're all Dodge.
Trailer with an old 12 valve.
Yep.
And so the fact that I wouldn't mind staying Dodge, but when it comes down to the towing capability that other brands are now offering, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So thank you for Tavit joining us today. Let's see if we can have a long run-on sentence about trucks.
Pretty much. There ain't gonna be no periods on this one. So I want to be a little bit stuck up and say I think I was a little bit of the start of the whole Ford thing, to where, Connor, Gleason and Ryan, when I bought my Ford, everybody was asking me, including Sam, like, how's the truck? What do you think? How's it going? What do you think? What do you think? Honestly, I hated my truck in the beginning. I almost got a little bit of buyer's remorse for a very short while. And it was because I kept on driving the Ford like a Dodge. I kept on trying to do things for it, which it does not like. It knows what it wants to do. But from saying that, my buddy Gleason, he went and bought an F-250. He's over there jumping it right now at the dunes. My buddy Ryan, he
got a more detail. It's not a 2012 truck.
Oh yeah, no, he did. Yeah, it's a 2024 or 25. It's the newest one that you could get off the lot right now. And then the same thing with my buddy Ryan. He got an F-350. Now these guys don't tow like we do. Well, they do. He actually has a lowboy and a tractor trailer to haul their equipment. I don't do that kind of stuff. This is my workhorse.
If Connor gets the right situation, he'll overload.
Well, the thing, Connor will definitely still probably tow a skidder with that truck.
Yeah.
Might be a photo. But so it kind of started there. I bought this thing. This thing fell in my lap. Connor went and got one. Ryan went and got one. And now I'm sitting here with Sam, and now he's got one. Well, this is the second F-450, in our friends group here. I even got a buddy up in Idaho. He has a ton of 450s. So,
well, that's another thing. 450s aren't everywhere.
No, but the moment you buy one, you start seeing more of them on the road. I swear.
Yeah, but if you try to buy one,
it's kind of a pain.
I don't know. You got lucky.
I
landed up with one in your lap.
Yep.
And then I was hunting for as close. I'm not trying to say that yours was one to chase after, but I wanted something similar.
Yeah.
And the night that I edited the footage of us towing with your truck, towing 35,000 pounds with it.
You freaking went hard.
No, it was midnight. I sat down on the couch after editing the video because it's hard to capture it every time, but excitement in a video of just people having fun, doing something, and capturing that raw excitement is rare. So seeing that in the edit, and then I sat down, I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool if I could find one. So I literally just typed in black 2022 F450 on Google. That's what I used to do, trying to find rare trucks, because if you just do that and hit images, then you can just go through it like Craigslist. And I seen one, and it said it was Corning, which is a couple hours away.
That dealer to you too.
Yeah, that was funny. When I posted that video, I'd already bought the truck. But that's how I ended up finding it, and it checked pretty much every box I was looking for. But going back to 2020, had I got to drive a 450 rather than an F350, I didn't really think there was that big of a difference. Just kind of.
There is.
Well, it's not only gearing, obvious.
Yes.
The stability of the 19.5s. I would say the 350 dually just felt like a sponge. It didn't have very much stability in the corners, and the gear ratio, it didn't seem like it wanted to hold back, and that's what really offended me about that truck, because Ford was like, oh yeah, this has got a comparable exhaust brake, and a lot of people said that were 450 drivers or lower gear ratio 350 guys.
Yep. Because I was back in that. How long ago was that now?
You were about to pull the trigger on.
So that's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I was looking at a 450 in the beginning before I bought my 3500.
Which you can't regret the 3500.
No, I'm not saying anything bad about it, but I
hadn't a test drove that 350, you would have got a 450.
There's a pretty dang good chance. It definitely it swayed my decision big time, and then especially I just sat in that truck I liked. I'm like, well, it's got a Cummins inline six. I'm a freaking knucklehead like that, and called it a day. Drove it home.
The platform of 4th gen or the 5th gen is not a bad deal, or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
4 1/4.
Apparently, it's still an 08, so still a 3rd gen as far as people discuss half the time.
Dude, it's got the same. That's okay. We'll go into that topic right now.
Might as well.
We go into the idea of what has been going on that's so good about the Ford that everybody's leaning towards. We'll talk about what Dodge, and I don't know if Fiat owns it now. I don't even know how that goes. It seems Stellantis is the head honcho brand. But if you go back to 2010, that's when 4th gen really hit the streets. Got a bigger cab than the 3rd gen by a lot. And it's actually, it was an impressive jump that they did back then. And then when they still carried the mega cab into the 4th gen, only thing that you really got was you had a reclining seat in the back. The floor pan for the back seat room was the same. So you couldn't even put a bed in it like you back in the day.
Yeah, well, my brother, he from his 08 to his 4th gen that he just bought, his 18. He's
mega cabs.
Yeah, the cab's narrower.
Oh, it's narrower too?
Yeah.
Man, something about a 3rd gen mega cab. Those things are just.
He said it's way bigger.
About those.
Yeah. Sorry. Keep on going.
But it's now 2025. I know the frame's different, but the cab is the same. The bed is the same. And I never checked on my 5500, but I know. No, it did have it. It had to have. It still had the firewall set up so you could put a clutch pedal in it, just like the 4th gen.
Really?
I would want to say I know my
little freaking plug hole pop out.
It's the same exact. It's the same thing that was on the same plug cap that was on my 98.
No joke.
Yeah, and I'll give Dodge credit for throwing back till like 1968 in the Dodge Charger, like tearing into my Charger. It was the same bolts, same location, same design to hold the dash in there.
They're consistent.
So consistent. It was like the same 18 bolts, and you could tear the whole thing apart.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing about dropping the transmission on those trucks, too. It was like a 14 and an 18.
And 15.
Yeah, that's about it.
And 13 for taking the slave off.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But anyway, the point being is they've been running the same truck for a decade and a half.
Yeah. And it clearly is starting to really show that they are lacking big time and so many capabilities on these trucks. Like, it's time to officially change this truck.
Mm-hmm.
You guys just keep on trying to just put freaking unicorns and some spiffy stuff on these things, because I wrote this down too. They're trying to just go with, we have a Cummins in the truck. They're going to buy it because of the Cummins, which is true. And that's clearly what they're riding on. The truck itself, I have nothing good to say anymore. Straight, I waited so long. Waited for the 2025 to come out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have no craving, no nothing for it whatsoever.
It would be nice to do a tow test.
Yeah, that's about it.
Evan's supposed to bring one down once the management signs one off, but I'll be excited for that. But at the end of the day, it's like the 94 to 02 2nd gen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the 1st gen, arguably, they ran that from the 70s. That's the same body style. And then 03 to 09, maybe 010 to 5500. So, so we got 7 years, and now 15. Not saying everything was all about the body, but it's like a lot of people are diehard 2nd gens across the board. 3rd gens the same. But now there's so many 4th gens out there. So when it came down to, ultimately with my 5500, I wanted that. I love the truck. It checked all the boxes for what I wanted that truck to be. But ultimately, what I wanted to be in, I wasn't very happy with that truck. Transmission-wise, power-wise, because they're derated.
That's a whole conversation.
Yeah, so that might be part of this. We'll see.
Yeah.
But when everybody's like, why didn't you just wait for the 2025 Dodge to come out? I'm like, because I would rather not buy a first year of that truck.
That's tried and true. That's his gut feeling right there.
Yeah, it's got some tasteful upgrades. Does it?
Nothing that was extravagant enough for a multi-billion-dollar company,
yeah,
whatever.
To go to a 8-speed transmission is something they've been waiting.
They didn't make it worth my while.
No,
whatsoever.
But the ultimatum that I gave myself, it's like, okay, I take my 5,500. I want this much money for it. I even offered it to a buddy for a number, and the dealer gave me more than that for my trade-in, which I was pretty happy about. So, but my ultimatum was, if I don't find, let's say, the 450, I wasn't going to buy a new 2025 Ram, no matter what. I would have taken my money and used half of it or less, and just went and bought another 2018 410 high output 410.
Go get a manual.
Those are derated. Those are derated 410s. Yeah. So I drove one. It wasn't that.
Man.
Because then that's another subject. Just to
why do they keep on derating these dang trucks?
Yeah, because if you get, that was the thing, so much information that I based everything for a Dodge from for the longest time was the fact that it was a stick shift. You could put it in, if you really had to, you could put it in first gear. But most of the time, second gear was very comparable. Run the exhaust brake and just granny kick down a hill with a trailer.
No problem.
Yeah. And the exhaust brake would run all the way down to idle. So when it came down to getting an automatic truck, I figured, well, I know my power, my usable power is going to be a little bit better since I don't have to, waste.
You're never letting off.
Yeah. But the shift, you're losing 1,000 RPM between shifts, and then the D rate, granted, you get a lower gear ratio and it would help a little bit exaggerate the horsepower. But at the end of the day, it's like if every hill you're hitting is wide open second gear and you're not even cresting the hill locked up anymore, there's something extremely wrong right there.
Big time.
But yeah, I would rather than fight that kind of deal and get, because you could get a stealth tuner or something like that on a 410 and you could have the same horsepower as a high output 20.
Oh, easily.
25. Yeah. And the trans would be nice, but everything else wasn't screaming. Do you remember when, like in 2018, they're like, all right, no more, the 410's going out, and there was like, like cosplay, kind of like, oh, this is what the truck's going to look like, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And this is like cartoony revisions of it, and they were like
super exaggerated.
They were look so sick. It almost looked like a Dodge truck mixed with like Halo. You're like, that's going to be cool. Everybody's so fired up about it.
Here we go.
Yeah, and then it showed up, and I didn't mind it.
No, it's still all right.
But I just thought, that's just not something I'm...
Kind of a downer.
Yeah. But then you went and got one.
Yep.
Funny.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the truck.
No, it's been a great truck.
Yeah.
I have 100,000 miles on the thing now. It's been to the dealer a few times for a few issues, just...
Leaks.
Yeah. And I went through one EGR.
The cooler?
The cooler.
Yeah.
Turd it out, and the valve. But that was around 65,000 miles. That's been about the bulk of it. I've had one valve cover gasket leak just lately.
But that's the thing is, my view on a 6.7 Cummins, how you got power out of a smaller displacement rig like that was RPM.
Yeah, which is the weirdest part. That's one thing my brain can't wrap around because, like I said with the Ford, when I tried shifting for it and doing things for it, I didn't like it because I was used to driving the Cummins. And the Cummins, for some reason, likes to be at 2,800 RPM, 3,000 RPM, just screaming up the grades and, like, towing our excavators or whatever the heck we got on the trailer. Like, my excavator weighs 26,000 pounds, for goodness sakes. That thing... It's like if you wanted to cool down on the grade, it feels like if you brought it down to like 2,000, 2,100 RPM, now you're only doing like 35 miles an hour up a grade, and then it wants to downshift again because it just wants to be in the higher gears. This Ford is on average...
Which don't make no sense.
Yeah. It's going like 12 to 15 miles per hour quicker up these grades, and it's holding it doing like 1,800 RPM to 2,200 RPM, and it's like... If you downshift for it and rev it up, the Ford will slow down. It actually has bottom end grunt with these motors, and that's made no sense to me because I was like, all right, V8, same displacement, must rev more. They do, but they still have low end torque. The dang Cummins doesn't have anything until it gets off of its butt at 2,500 RPM.
Where it gets weird if you've driven. So I know a lot of people wouldn't say they live through videos like this, but the idea is like not a lot of people have driven a first gen, second gen, third gen, all of it. You know, it just. But the difference going from a 24 valve second gen to a third gen common rail, it's cammed way different. Aimed for the RPM, and that's the way they still run because there was such an increase in horsepower from a second to a third gen. They usable horsepower, and it all came down to RPM. So if you go from your common rail truck and then go back to a 24 valve,
like my truck.
Yeah,
that thing 2,000, 2,100 RPM. Ball.
It's almost like a little bit offensive. It's so touchy on the throttle, off the line. You're like, let's not say it's a race truck, just being exaggerative so you have an idea, but. It's just there's so much more bottom end, and once it gets to you'd be, wringing its neck at 2,800 on a second gen.
Oh yeah,
it's like why?
I just think of the Ranch Runner. That thing, I'll short shift that thing at 1,500 RPM. It'll still freaking boost up and go.
So that's the weirdest thing that the Ford had to offer. And let's go through your list a little bit to see what we got because we'll get out of subject real quick right now.
Big time. So I wanted to start in the 90s, and I guess 90s wise, I know they were both gutless motors in the beginning. The international engine that they had in the IDIs there wasn't much going on with them. My biggest issue is with Dodge. Where the heck the 4-doors at? The only 4-doors that were out there were down in Texas getting modified.
Yeah, only 600 exist. Well,
yeah, there isn't that much. The abundancy of such a very convenient kind of truck to have was never built.
The funny thing, though, is a culture kind of thing back then because I've heard this statement a lot, especially for crew cabs like this Ford here. It's back then, if you got a crew cab, that was you gave that to the crew so they could carpool on it. It was a truck you didn't even care about. Yeah. Ironically, now those trucks are quadruple value of a yeah. And now, if you got a regular cab truck, it'd be weird.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of flipped.
Looks so good though.
What?
I saw it $450 for sale with a regular cab.
I said
I was like,
same color as yours.
Yeah.
Might as well double down.
I was like, okay.
But I think I don't know where Dodge went wrong with that. The second gen crew cab factory truck
It would be such a sick truck to have an abundance of.
But they dropped the ball on that. They're dropping
time.
the ball on a 450 now.
Yeah. So, that's just one of the things I wanted to get off my head. And then I think just about anybody will agree that the transmissions were butt from the very beginning. The 48 was just useless. All the automatic transmissions in the Dodges, they were just not good enough.
Well, just because
you were going to rebuild it.
Yeah. But you got first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, lockup. And a lot of people think that makes it a 5-speed. Lockup ain't another gear.
So you should tell me it's got 8 gears-ish? Wait,
yeah.
6-ish?
They'll probably tell you it locks up first gear.
I'm sure. Yeah.
The only thing that locked up first gear from the beginning was a stick shift truck. That's a El Manuel with a third pedal.
Yep.
But that was just an attempt at just putting a trans in that they already kind of had on the shelf.
Pretty much.
And they rode with that from the 70s, add an overdrive to it.
Yep.
And eventually, even in the early first gen with the Cummins, unlocked torque converter.
It never locked up.
I mean, it's got a stall, but it doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Because those things just leaned on it this whole time. And that's why they end up burning so many of them up.
Yeah. And you're like, I got a 180 horse motor, but by the time it gets to the tires and you're floored, it's only putting out 70 horsepower.
Mm-hmm. Downhill.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. But then you fast forward to a second gen. That truly was a major jump, what Dodge had offered, even though they didn't have the extra doors and everything.
Yep.
But the frame improved. They got better front steering by a lot.
Yeah.
Compared to a first gen.
Yeah.
The frame, boxing in the frame, and then to go into coils in the front.
Yep.
That's just a no-brainer because anybody that's running first gen now, they're going to do a coil swap on the front. And the steering went from, not a lot of people like the second gen steering. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I've done a lot of modifications to mine just to make it more better-ish.
And then, shoot, even what do these trucks got on it for? the front rack for the control arms? Is it like your 3500? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, the long arms.
Yeah.
Radius arm. The most comfortable and strongest weight.
If you long arm a second gen truck,
which I did to mine,
it just transforms
it was
how
huge.
nice it drives.
Yeah, and they are radius arm too in a way. They're not 4 links, but doing that and then, I upgraded it to the 1-ton 4th gen steering on the truck, and then I put the fancy box in
Late
there.
second gen trucks, you can do that.
Yeah,
not early ones.
Yeah, it was the convenience of 01 right there.
Yeah,
good engine, good front end, or capability of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, going upon the transmission side, and then the 68. I don't know how they've been carrying on for so long with the 68, even though in the
they ran that 4-speed automatic for about 90 years. So
yeah, might as well just do that.
This is just a blip on existence if they ran that 68 for a decade or two.
Yeah, and then finally getting into the ISIN, and I still don't understand why they have all these change ups. And if you get this truck, you get this. If you get that truck, you get this. They have all these change up in between the engine rate and the transmission that's in it. Just put the right ones in there and call it a day. If someone wants to race their truck, that's their problem after they buy it. All right. So one of the things, I know some people have had problems with the ASIN, and some people haven't. I haven't had a single issue with mine, thankfully enough.
The ASIN, that thing was pretty tried and true for a long time, up until
when they had that snap ring failure.
Yeah, that was like mid-year 22 or something like that, and that put a lot of sour in people's taste.
But that's over with. Like, I haven't heard. I think if it failed, it's failed already.
It's
over.
Damn. The replacement failed.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that was pretty bad. But as far as I was concerned, like, ISIN did a pretty nice job. I wasn't too bummed about that. It's great, flat land up until you get into the hills, and then you realize that it doesn't hold back crap.
Yep.
Because you got no first gear lockup, which I talked about a million times.
Yep.
But it does not turn the exhaust brake on till 20 mile an hour.
Till 20 mile an hour.
It'll hold it till about 10. So
yes,
you gotta. If you want it to hold at 10, that would be nice. If it's turned on at 10, that would be cool.
Once in a great while, if I'm doing like 15 miles an hour, I'll like kind of flip the throttle and it'll find a lockup and it'll start engaging. I'm like, finally.
Yeah.
It's like doing the same thing in my 01. If I want to trick it into locking up in the second gear, it's like the same dang thing all over again.
That's kind of weird. Huh?
Yeah. But beyond that, my biggest issue is the first gear not locking up.
Yeah.
And how long has Dodge? How long has Ford been doing lockup now? Since at least 2019, 2018, on first gear lockup, right? Or no?
That would have been 6-speed. I don't know much about that.
Sorry, the 10-speed, 2019.
Yeah, 2020.
2020. All right.
Came out the triangle.
Yeah.
Grill.
So they have first gear lockup, and for whatever reason, that's why I want to slam freaking TFO truck. Those.
Go ahead, preach it.
Freaking. After all these tests, all these videos, not as far as I know, not one of them has ever mentioned, hey, forward gear locks up in first gear. No, I haven't heard that anywhere until I sat in that truck after I bought it and it went, first gear locks up. No way.
Apparently the ZF's going to do that in 25.
I've still yet to see anybody confirm that. Everybody says they're putting the 7.2. Everybody's saying they're finally putting a 10-speed. Then they say, they're putting a ZF in it. That's actually the one thing somebody guessed right for once. And Dodge still can't even come out with a truck before the new year starts. 2-3 months in, we're like, look, dealers are finally starting to get some trucks.
Yeah.
That's a whole other subject, but they locked up in first gear for the last 5 years. They have a 10-speed that actually works and communicates with the rest of the thing.
We'll fact check that. See what, because I know the 10-speeds obviously have done that.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know if the 6-speeds did, but between that, like, where was I going? Squirrel.
I'm going to text Roland right now because I know he's going to have that answer. What else you got on your list there?
Oh, dude, it keeps on going. Like, clearly, the Ford makes more power than the Dodge. We all get that. It's got a 10-speed. The Dodge has had the 6-speed forever. I'm not talking about the new ones. Yeah, they got 8-speed. But how long has it taken them to catch up to still be 2 gears below Ford?
No. You got to reword that.
Okay.
I think what we've all been wanting for, I wouldn't say we've been rooting for the underdog this whole time, but when it came down to us diehard Dodge guys, we've just been waiting for. It's like your star rider. You know he's got that potential to just excel and win the race. So every weekend you're rooting for them to just say, "Fuck, we're gonna do it."
Yep.
And every year they're just like, "Oh, we showed up." I'm like, I know you're still consistent. You're still doing great. You got a couple cool things, but I just really wanted to see a win. Just flat out do the work.
The freaking break the market.
Yeah.
Just do it right. I mean, they got to know what they're I'm not trying to say they're stupid, but they're being stupid with how they're going about this. Like, don't think as your consumer bases, don't think that we're stupid. We know what the potential is. And I know that they have to know what they got to do to break this market. And Ford is just keeping up every single year. Hey, we made this better. Hey, we made that better. Hey, and then Dodge is just like, we changed the headlights. We put an oil thing in the more convenient location. So as far as I'm concerned now, they're not using the OG Cummins motors for the actual commercial market. This is now a Cummins that's specifically for a vehicle, because they ain't going to use those motors on generators. They're not going to use them on tractors. Now the whole freaking oil fill's on the way.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I was just thinking.
But again, I'll have to talk about it real quick. But
it's kind of like how when Diamond C came out with Engineered Beam, that just like set the tone.
Yes.
So because like before that, no discredit to them, it's like that just they were doing their job.
Yeah.
But now the whole market changed with the idea that we got 10-speed in there, we got horsepower, and it's just crazy how well that 10-speed translates the horsepower through each gear.
Yes. Oh, that's why I want to keep on saying. Sam and I, we drive on some crazy, stupid, steep hills from time to time, and there's been a few times where the Dodge will completely lose power. I think one of them was a 12 or 13% grade. What do you say?
He said with a 10-speed from factory is when the option came out for first gear lockup.
Okay.
But it's been an option with tuning starting in 03.5 in the 5R110 and the 6R140 in the 11 through 22 trucks. I don't know if it's possible with tuning. 22. You might have said something.
20.
Maybe 19. Anyway. But with tuning, so
okay.
Realistically, you can lock a first gear back in the day.
All right. That's pretty cool. That's impossible with Dodge. So going back, towing up this super steep grade, second gear pin, I'm already at 2,800 RPM, lose everything flat out on the hill. The truck goes, hey, I'm going to wait till this motor completely bogs out, then unlock second gear, bog out second gear, shift down to first gear, wind up first gear, shift out of second gear or out of first gear into second gear, try to lock up, and it keeps on trying to do this circular motion, trying to blow itself up.
And somewhere in there, it spins the tires.
Yes, and that's where you think you're just going to blow the driveline right off the truck.
That is a very uncomfortable feeling.
It's just, whatever reason, Dodge doesn't know how. Everyone's like, it's Ram. Okay, cool, it's Ma'am.
No, it's Dodge.
I don't know why they don't know how to make these trucks learn what the transmission needs to do. And that's where I went. I'm driving for the Dodge all the time. I'm telling it what gear it needs to be in. I'm telling it where it needs to go. I'm turning off tow haul mode a bunch of times because I don't want to downshift so aggressively just because I'm trying to set the truck in for a turn. Mm-hmm. I don't need it to wind up to 2,800 RPM to start the exhaust brake or start slowing down when I'm just trying to slow down 5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The Ford knows this so well, and everybody's like, oh, Dodge has the learning transmission. I don't know what it's learning, but it ain't learning anything. It doesn't know what it's doing. It's still back in freaking kindergarten, still spinning, freaking shooting bubbles out of its butt, for goodness sakes. With the Dodge.
With Ford?
The Ford, excuse me. It's one cool thing. If you want go fast mode, don't turn on the exhaust brake. You want like a light towish mode, turn on the exhaust brake and the shift points change. It doesn't skip gears, it has a very light deceleration, and it doesn't have an aggressive gear change when you're on the brake. And when you're in tow haul mode, a little bit more aggressive with everything. But at the same time, if I try to go down a grade, setting up for a turn, I hit the brake. I don't know how. The truck is like, oh, he's setting up for a turn. It doesn't freaking wind itself up like crazy trying to brake again. And then you're trying to catch your gear. And then the very few times that thing has ever gone to first gear, guess what? It downshifts into first gear, locks up first gear, and will hold it until it just knows there's no more load being needed. And then it'll shift into second. And we keep on going. The Dodge, every single time I get in a situation like that, it's like I'm just waiting to drop a U-joint. Every time.
The revving to the moon, that was one thing that I was kind of like, all right.
And it loses so much because there's no first gear lockup. And that's where you really think you're going to break your truck. Because I swear, the moment those Isons get out of lockup, they start heating up so quick. So quick. I mean, within 100 yards, if you're doing a pull like that, you'll go from 168 to 220 in no time. Dude, I overheated the transmission going down a grade.
Yeah.
Without lockup.
I've seen higher temps going down a grade trying to maintain something in first. And mind you, that's another thing I want to bring up is
I forgot about that.
There has been, like, I have to reroute my routes through town when I switched over to full time with a automatic truck. I've only had the Ford probably 6 weeks or something. Mm-hmm. And I haven't had to go through town this particular route with the Ford yet, and I'm pretty confident it'll do what I need to. But with the stick shift, obviously, first gear, I can pull pretty much any hill with any load. But most times, second or third gear, I can pull it. But when I came down to running the Ison, I would have to stay unlocked. Pretty much, if you got to be unlocked, you might as well just stay in first gear and just grind into the hill. But I would have to take different routes through town to avoid a couple of these hills because there's a stop sign at the bottom of them, and maybe with the chipper, I could pull it in second gear. I know I could with the chipper, but anything above 15 to 18, 20 plus thousand, there's no way I'd even take that route because it didn't make any sense. You just burning on the converter the whole time. And that's what really frustrated me. And even if you add tunes to it to get a little bit more power to get a good run up at it, you're still battling. You're still 20 mile an hour mandatory to lock up a gear. And that was kind of a shock when I was like, I can't take this route. It's not feasible. But same thing coming down these hills, because I ran the '08 stick shift truck for so long. It's like you just get used to the idea of like, if I have to go to second gear pulling or going down a hill, that's a nasty hill. That is, like, I've done that once, so I was like, I'll be fine.
5-10 miles an hour.
Both exhaust brake, or I got exhaust brake and an engine brake from Pack Brake. They used to do that back in the day.
Good days.
But it's like, all right, second gear, that's a hardcore hill needing second. But that translates to a first gear hill with this automatic, and it's unlocked. And that's where I saw the most temperature was coming down from up at Bowman.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is a nasty, and I guess it was holding something back. It didn't really feel like much. But with the Ford, I went down a hill with just a skid steer on it, which is 17,000 pounds plus trailer, so you're over 20,000 pounds behind the truck. And just to test it out, mind you, this hill was big enough when I went up it with the 5500. It was a job that I dropped the machines off with 55, sold the 55, came back and got it for it. But the hill was big enough, I ran everything I had at the hill, second gear, and I barely made it to the top, and it unlocked as I coasted over. So that's a pretty good sized hill.
Yep.
But just for experimental test, because nobody else wants to give us their truck to do these tests, I guess we'll do it on our own. I put it in first gear, exhaust brake, and the initial descent going over, I was like, all right, I'm going to be on the brakes. And then I was like, let's just see what it's got. It held it, first gear, granted that whole hill. Yep. I got the video of it. I don't know if I'll post it by the time this happened or not. But that right there was worth the price of admission by a lot.
You're just like,
yeah.
That's like the biggest problem solved in what we do.
And if it brings it down too low, which we didn't expect Ford to do that, if the exhaust brake actually slows you down enough, it'll start to open and close the exhaust brake, and it's like a mellow, like if you did that with the Cummins open and close, you'd probably break something.
Because that is like it slowly engages and disengages. I don't know.
Using a variable geometry turbo.
Yeah, not just on-off switch.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And it wasn't accelerating like hardcore. And actually I did go back and get the mech from that job with the 3500 because I didn't have
Yeah.
the chain latches for the Ford yet.
Yeah.
It's a different size. And yeah, no, that was just freaking brakes the whole way down. Granted, that was 10,000 plus pounds more, but nevertheless, like first gear.
There's nothing there.
Up until 20 mile an hour, you got nothing. And
Yeah.
that's on a 20 mile an hour hill. You want to be going down, you tip it right over in the ditch.
I mean, then too, you're like, all right, I'm going to try to do 10 to 12 miles an hour just to have some kind of exhaust brake. You're so low on your RPM, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just dragging brake. And that's why, like, quite a few years back, when I was coming down that logging road, I had...
That little boy is proud of his straight pipe. That's like me in like 2013, 14.
Ain't got no boost.
Yeah. He didn't smoke either, so he got the pipes, got no tunes.
Ain't got no choochers. But when I was going down that, I made a video on that one too. That was when I in the very beginning, put that 4-wheel drive disconnect switch on the truck. Because my impression was, sweet, I can put my truck in 4-low and get it in the second gear and lock up and run down these grades that are extremely steep. Yeah. I just want to go slow. But guess what? The Dodge is like, oh no, you're in 4-low. We're not going to lock up the transmission in 4-low, regardless. We're done.
Okay, so let's talk about a couple more things on your list to get back on subject. Because I'm not going to lie, I would listen to, and it really makes, what's this freaking hair on my face? A podcast, like when I was doing that orchard job, it was like, I had my day based around like 2 podcasts, like 3 hours a piece, and you're like, all right, we're good. Because you just listen to 2 old boys talk about their deal all day long, hear their stories from back in the day, and what they thought about other creators. And we can all appreciate effort that people put into making some of these videos. And some of these guys are, I don't know, they're a lot more business oriented and set up a lot more
commercially or
so that they
legitimately, I guess.
Yeah, so that they would have trucks to use for demonstrations, but those demonstrations, like
TFL truck, for example,
we can all agree we watched all their stuff when it came down to a specific truck or car or whatever you're after. But some of the areas that they check, I mean, I would personally rather hear actual end user rather than spokesman.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I wrote a few things down, like not to bash on them, but to bash on them. They are doing what Ford or Dodge or Chevy themselves will do for advertisement purposes. I don't think they ever get down into the nitty gritty. All they ever do is talk about, oh man, this seat's comfortable. Oh, this AC works great. The fuel mileage is this.
Do you think the AC works better in the Ford over the Dodge?
100%. That truck will freeze me out over my Dodge. The Dodge, I swear, it just felt like it's always been lacking like a whole freaking 3 or 4 pounds of Freon.
Level 7 was wide open. It felt like it needed level 8 or 9.
It didn't have, it was never cold enough, and it just didn't have the force.
Which is an uppity freaking excuse to whine about, but if you pay more than $8,000 for a truck.
Yeah. I was like, I never complained about my 01, change the compressor, still haven't recharged the system, but it's my truck, I don't care. I roll the windows down anyways because I like to listen to it. These ones don't sound like anything.
Yeah.
That's all you hear. AC definitely better, especially when you get that cab nice and cold and you turn on the butt coolers. Whew. Yeehaw. Yeehaw.
That's a Ford guy.
So there's a few things I want to compare here. What the heck did I write? Dude, I wrote down so much stuff. I mean, one thing I'll just throw out there, and nothing's organized. This truck, if I was going to talk about fuel mileage, I would say on average it gets about like 1 to 2 better than the Dodge. And this thing doesn't use turd for death. Drove to Idaho and back, I towed one way, came back, bobtailing the other, and I used 1/8 of a tank over 1,400 miles. My Dodge would use a little bit more than a quarter tank on that trip. I drove that thing to Colorado and back, and I think I topped off the DEF once because half tank for me is empty.
When we're talking about when we talk about fuel consumption, that brings me to why all the new vehicles need additive. It seems like everybody's thinking like all these new trucks, obviously they're trying to atomize the fuel better, and it requires a tighter tolerance and trying to get more pressure and all that. And
60,000 foot-pounds of PSI or whatever that
yeah,
is.
but it's like everybody's like, all these new trucks, they're not as good as they used to be. Well, that's how every generation of everything has ever been. They always say last generation it was good because by the time they got to the end of that generation, they had it kind of figured out. So what everybody's basing these new trucks on, nothing's really figured out, but everybody kind of skips the idea of today's fuel is crap compared to what it used to be, especially in California because we're running that.
And I think we proved that.
That is bad. And so your lubrosity, the lube in it, diesel tinge ain't diesel tinge anymore. You can almost wash parts off with it.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't stick to your hand. Like, you know, you spill diesel on you and you smell it for the rest of the evening. It's not like that.
No.
It's like brake cleaner now. It just dissipates.
Yeah, so you need to have fuel additive because it's not diesel as it used to be. And that's what everybody's still basing the trucks and injection pump and everything on. But trying to get fuel additives and then all the emissions and stuff, when it's doing a regen, it's throwing more fuel down the hole, trying to burn it, get a little bit more
Literally
hot.
sending it with an injector down the hole.
But it's like watering down a cylinder steaming. You know, trying to overcook it. And then that goes into your oil. And then once that gets into your oil, I don't know why we're needing to run 1030 on everything now, especially with Dodge, where they got those hydraulic lifters.
Yep.
So the more fuel that you add to it, the more it doesn't burn it all efficiently. Gets into the oil, makes your oil thinner that already is.
It contaminates it.
Yeah, so you're forced to do early oil changes. It's not that big a deal, but you know, still BS. But if you don't do it, then your oil and fuel mixture going up through your lifters and starting to premature ruin some of that stuff.
What's up, dude?
Did you walk down all by yourself with Mom?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Barefoot
Hey,
Tarzan.
you're supposed to have shoes on. Let me turn the video off real quick. That was one thing I wanted to talk about because everything needs fuel additive now, unfortunately.
Hey, Dan, calm down. Hit the road. Here.
All right, see you, man. Okay, I'll end my little segment. I think that the poor diesel fuel and the biodiesel mixed with whatever reason we're not running 1540 anymore. I don't care if you ran T4, T5, T6. You know, the fact that we're not running the thick stuff anymore and needing to run the thin and the poor fuel, that's probably the biggest downfall, I think, across the board as far as killing engines early, no matter what.
Yeah. And the weirdest thing, though, in the chipper, it still takes 1540.
Good for that,
right?
What is it? What engine?
9 liter?
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Not a little girl.
commercialized.
Not a little girl.
Yeah, no,
Big girl.
not at all. What I want to, oh yeah, I was complaining about all these other truck testers, about comforts of the seats, fuel mileage, their 0 to 60, how long they can hold these grades. I feel like if you're not in the industry, in the business that we do, like, all right, they test out trucks, they know what they're doing, I don't get it wrong, but anybody can talk about, a salesman can talk about anything that they want to make something look good or look bad on their end of whatever, which way they go. There's a difference between when you're using the truck.
Yeah.
There really is, because there's been so many things I figured out over the time just with this truck.
Fine line between an honest guy that's making a YouTube video, because at the end of the day, it's like not getting paid to talk about the truck.
No.
Buy the truck. It's like we're just making a video just to maybe help the other guy out.
Yeah.
But there's a part of anybody that if they bought a vehicle that they just talked up like they liked so much, and then they finally got it and they didn't like it, are they going to say that on the video? Not a lot of people would.
No, that's a hard thing to admit.
Yeah, because then you're just saying, I just spent 80, 70, 90, 100 grand
insane amount of
not
money.
like it.
Yeah.
So that would be a hard thing to actually admit.
Be truthful. Like, that would be a very hard thing to admit. Like,
So that's why a paid guy that's talking that had a dealer sponsor that truck for the video, he's probably not going to go out of his way to say, hey, I didn't like this.
yeah.
You know, which is kind of a bummer, but then that's almost the guy that doesn't have any skin in the game as far as owning the truck, could just be like, listen, that bad boy didn't do what it needed to right there. The 350 just was not. I don't know if anybody's done a 350 versus 450 just straight up.
No, I mean, I think if we were to, I'd be like, all right, the biggest things that I would definitely say just right off the bat without actually testing one is turning radius, drivetrain, 19.5s. Sold. That's why a 350 wasn't even my eyesight whatsoever. If Ford didn't have the 450, I would not have bought a Ford.
Yeah. Because, I mean, back to 2020 when I was looking at them, I think I test drove probably 3, maybe at least 3 trucks at the lot. And, you know, just go down there. I used to do that a lot before YouTube, before I got my 3500 back in the day. That was back, probably, I can say that was the last time that I was bored, was back in like between 2016 and 2018.
Tire kicker. Professional tire kicker.
Pretty much. But it's like those old boys don't give a crap. It's like you go down there and it's like, you want to go over to test drive? Whatever, you know? And I actually did a smoke and burnout in one of them because in a 2018 Laramie truck. Because I was like, do these trucks do a burnout? And the old boy was like, well, let's find out. He was like, let's go.
I test drove that Porsche.
You did?
Yeah, I blew one.
I don't think you can say that on here.
What? Hey, he turned on traction control and not traction control, but launch control for me.
No,
he's like,
that's mandatory.
Yeah, he's like, all right, full brake, full gas, let her rip. Okay. Oh, that was sick. Sorry.
Well, so anyway, back in the day, if we were kind of bored on a weeknight or whatever, be like, let's go down to the dealership. Let's try and see what they got down there. And did the same thing with the Fords. Went and test drove a handful of those, but they're all single wheel. Maybe a 350, but they're all F250s and stuff. And there was no doubt about it when that 10-speed came out. Those things just flat out got it. And then when Topo brought over his F350, that Enterprise truck, that was, I mean, it pulled the hills great. But then you hit the corners and it's like you could feel like the truck just worked over.
Just lean over.
I think, because like if you put the 080 in that same position on the Ford 450, it's not going to be on the overloads. We didn't barely get on the overloads at the prime. But the tires and the suspension on 350 versus 450 just didn't want to be the same.
Like, I don't want to lie to my own brain, but I could have sworn you probably brought that up when we first drove my Dodge, when I first bought it, because I swear you almost said, I mean, we can look back in the video probably, but you said my truck doesn't lean as much as the 350.
No.
It was just more stable right off. And I don't think I had 19.5s on my truck yet.
No, definitely not.
No, because I was way below 13,000 miles. Let's try and change it out.
You didn't even have 1,000 on it when you brought it over.
No.
It was like the second week you had the truck. I didn't even know I had that many miles on it at that point.
I was like, I bought it, second tank of fuel, bring it over.
Yeah. It was a good day.
Yeah.
No, even with my 410, like the stability in the corners was still, I mean, sizable difference between the 450 and a 5500. A 5500 drive the corner like it's designed for it. But that's another thing. Everybody thinks that if you get a 45 or a 5500 cab chassis truck, they're like, in a sense, yeah, that's geared for doing work.
Yes.
But in a way, it's a different kind of work. It'd be more of like an ambulance or a big service truck.
You're consistently loaded.
Where the truck is holding the weight, not pulling it.
Yep.
And that's like a thing that people really get confused about, is that truck is designed to carry the weight.
Yeah.
Like Haas.
It's a payload truck.
Yeah, to have, if you're lumber delivery, there's no way any of those lumber delivery guys are going to get a F350 dually or a 3500.
Yeah.
They're going to get a cab chassis truck for fitment, obviously, but never. Like, even if you got a cab chassis 3500, it wouldn't make any sense because the tire and wheel ain't there.
You're limiting yourself right off the bat.
Everything. So I held on to the 5500 idea for the longest time because my buddy in Tennessee, mid-state lane clearing, that's back in the day. He's running that 410 towing a Prime Tech, and I thought, man, I just want to get one of those.
I can do that.
Yeah. He still got that truck.
Really?
Yeah, you know why? Because it's deleted. Tennessee.
Ta-da.
You don't give a
hoot. Not a barking spider's worth a dang.
I'm not saying anything deleted around here, but it's like when you're trying to talk on video anymore, it's not worth it to say what's under the hood.
No. Just give it to yourself. You know it.
Yeah.
We all know it. I mean, well, stick with a cab and chassis part. And another thing, I don't know if they're doing it. Are they doing it for this year? Is
high output for the cab chassis?
Yeah.
No, I looked the other day. Yeah.
all over again.
Yeah, no, that's, I was building a truck for 2025, and it was like 370 horsepower. A 2018 high output 3500 is 385 freaking horsepower. And here's another kicker too. Even if, let's go back to like a 2016 or whatever, or 2015. If you got a high output or high output pickup truck, then let's say it's 360 horsepower. And if you go to like my 22, 360 horsepower, the torque is different. You think, why would it be different? It's all in the tuning, obviously, and I'm sure.
Did they use different compression or?
That's
turbo?
what I was saying. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Compression would be different, but it's like the difference is so much. It's kind of ridiculous because, like, comparing your 20 versus my 22 5500.
Yeah.
It's like that early onset power that you would get, like if you tuned the truck, you would get that early grunt.
Yep.
And that early grunt, when it locks the torque converter, and can pull through and needs that. The cab chassis truck just did not have that pulling the weight. And
So low.
yeah, but people think, oh, it just takes you more time to get to the job. I'm all for that. I don't care about speeding one bit when I'm towing. I could care less. If I got,
We get paid more.
yeah, that's
We go a little bit slower.
shoot. If you're pulling a grade, that's funny when Gleason was running that 5500 back in the day.
Yeah.
The videos he took on Instagram, he'd be pulling a hill just because he manual transmission Laramie, 4-gen. That's a
we're
rare
still
truck.
blowing up.
Dude, he'd be just screaming, just wringing that truck's neck going up a hill and just show the rear view and there's just a pile of cars. There's nothing you can do about it.
It is what it is. That's
It's
it.
like,
That's
you
it.
pull over, you're going to hurt something on the truck trying to take off again, or you can just nurse that bad boy up the hill and don't care. And, you know, that's just, if that happens, if you got people behind you, whatever. If I got stuck behind somebody that missed a gear,
No.
we're here. What are we
Should have
going to
left
do?
5 minutes earlier.
We're not going to rewind the time machine and go like, listen, dude, hit that thing in a higher gear and then downshift earlier. Don't miss nothing.
Yeah.
No?
Try
But
again.
with my point being, like a cab chassis, it wasn't so much that you were going to take more time getting there. It was so much more effort for the poor truck. Cummins in general. It was so much more effort for the truck to just scream its head off trying to get lockup or just trying to pull the hill and then ultimately losing the lockup, losing the gear,
Yeah.
and not knowing what to do, and then just borderline, you think it's actually going to break its own neck. That was frustrating. And
Yeah.
so far with the Ford, I mean, you towed way more with yours than I with mine. But
It
it's
just
like,
knows what to do. It's fine.
it's not even the fact that it has an idea what to do, but the fact that it's got so many more options in gearing. And at the end of the day, a high output 3500 is running 410 gearing with an IS.
Yep.
And that's hitting you about 2,000 RPM to do 70. These things got 430 gear ratio, and you think, well, we're going to lose some highway. Nope. 70 mile an hour, 2,000 RPM.
Straight shot.
Yeah. So it's like you're hitting the big end just the same, but that low end grunt is ridiculous.
All of it's there. You haven't lost a single dang thing.
It's almost
whatsoever.
like you put it in 4-wheel low to take off.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's one thing I kept on forgetting to mention too. I love that these trucks have a lower reverse gear. I don't need to do 25, 30 miles an hour in reverse.
Not like an MV 4500 where it seems like it's taller.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
joke.
Jeez.
That's one nice thing because there's been a few times I'm backing up someone's driveway. I'm like, it's kind of nice that you're not, you're not burning up the transmission trying to back up. Like you can idle up stuff for goodness sakes half the time with this thing. I think what it does maybe 15, 17 miles per hour in reverse or something like that. Really nice and low ratio in the reverse gear.
I usually try to do 25 backing up a trailer.
Yeah. Usually with the Dodge, the moment I put it in reverse, I'm like, oh, sensors cannot locate you. Good.
Dude, what's up with that? Whatever.
What?
That's one thing, the beeping at you when you're backing up a trailer.
Yeah.
You get a little too barky going backwards.
Yep.
Backing up your own driveway, it starts teaching at you, and you're like, did I
What's
hit
going on?
something?
Yeah.
And it completely distracts you,
Yeah.
and you can't even turn it off.
No. I like the Ford, but every single time you put it in reverse, like, would you like to turn off the park sensor?
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, sure.
The dinging with the Ford. At first I was like, this has got it. That's one thing. I'm like, you guys are proud of that ding.
They like
So much.
the ding. I think I've gotten a little bit accustomed to it now. Like I don't hear it or remember it as much. They tuned me in, or I've tuned it out.
Straight jackets usually get comfortable after the more you wear them.
Yeah, you know, the tougher you fight, the tighter it gets. So I just kind of let it do its thing.
Let's before we get too off subject, there's two more things I want to cover. That's what we think about the new 25 Cummins engine. So from some of the videos, I got some bullet points in my mind I want to talk about, and then we'll talk about, that'll roll us into what really brings home the Ford.
So I'm going to follow you off of that, because I'll tell you, I've had the least amount of interest in Dodge's new upbringing of the truck. So I haven't researched, looked into it. I've just seen random posts. I saw a photo of the motor, and that's all about it. I've looked into it. I don't even know, did they even up the horsepower?
No.
Okay.
It's 430.
Okay, continue.
So enough that you could probably take your air cleaner out and obtain that extra. But what they did is the one cool thing that I really, like the Banks, like Monster Hoss or whatever, the intake that you gotta like mill the side of the head off. You seen those?
Oh, you're talking about
I don't remember
the
that
intake plenum? The side
you mill
draft?
the whole thing off so the whole thing can breathe.
Yes.
Yeah, so
That was like back in 96, 97.
I know, but that's like a hardcore upgrade in the racing world. And not saying it's a race truck, but it's cool that they're not starting number 6 anymore because they got this big intake. That was something I was like, all right, I kind of like that.
So they put Banks like side draft system on the
Essentially,
side.
yeah. And
What if I get money for that?
no, it's a clone, that's for sure. But anyway, speaking of Banks, it's like that idea also sparked something else, because for 6.7's been in the truck since 2007.
Yep.
And it's pushing 20 years they've been running this. And I think just social media has really been hyping this up, is that grid heater bolt failure, which is a big issue. You got the Banks on your rig.
Yeah.
So essentially that bolt falls out that holds your grid heater stud or whatever. And for some reason it goes to number 6 and ruins that cylinder, ruins the piston. And they say it's $30,000 bucks. He's got a new engine. But they don't have grid heater on new Cummins. It's got gold plugs. Yeah. And so that was a weird way to upgrade. But did they really upgrade? I don't really know.
There is such thing as glow plugs breaking the tip off and falling into your cylinder too. Now you got 6 of them.
But it was like the grid heater's been there for so long, and it's like the grid heater on a 24 valve. It's just that was the intake back then. Now a 6.7 was double that.
Yep.
And the grid heater is more in the plenum rather than on top, which it's still the same ingredients.
Yep.
Just wider, maybe more flow, less restriction. Probably less restriction. Wider rather than layers, I guess.
Thicker.
Because
thinner core radiator.
Yeah, they probably did that for emissions because they knew they're going to backdraft all the soot crap in there anyway.
Straight up, it's going to
clog
it
so
up.
It's just going to clog that. That's probably why they ended up going with glow plugs too.
Yeah,
it probably wasn't anything to do with that stud failing. It was probably the fact that they're like, you know what, these grid heaters, they kind of clog up because we're soot cooking our whole engine. They're just killing it. So that was something that was an upgrade. Now the injectors are external, so you don't have to pull the rockers off. It's kind of like a hybrid between like a first gen or a 12 valve really.
Yeah.
So the injector's on the outside of the head. Well, they're all on the outside head or whatever, But like they're on the outside of the valve covers, so you don't have to pull the rockers to get to them. That's easy for serviceability. But here's the thing that really, the hydraulic lifters.
Come on.
It's like hydraulic lifters in the racing world, you're like, hell yeah. But whatever they got in these ones, not that good. And every
hot metal or something.
You got it in your truck.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I was like 100,000 in. Thank
religious
God.
Oil changes.
Yes.
But
and I just want to get that one thing out of the way. Everybody's like, you got to change your truck at like, what do you change yours at?
5.
5.
The tow rigs, like my 55, my OG one, like I didn't want to go more than 5 because that thing was just straight up screaming the whole time. And with the new one, it was definitely like 5 was like mandatory. But if you were like, on a Sunday, you're like, I got the drain plug out, or whatever, the drain bucket out at 1,000 early. It's like whatever. But the hydraulic lifters though, that was a big complaint that a lot of people were discovering, and they're going back to a solid lifter tappet like the OGs. And that was one thing I thought for sure they were going to remedy and go back to the solids for the new engine. They didn't.
Nope.
And a lot of people are like, oh, well, actually, not a lot of people, but this one commenter just kept coming back, just one after another. He's like, they got better lifters, better hydraulic lifters now. I'm like, all right.
Is there really a better hydraulic?
Well, there's got to be. Well, some, different brand down the street's got something different. But that video of those old boys that tore apart a 25, their mechanic shop, and they opened it up, and he's like, yeah, those are the same things that the other one had.
Yep.
Nothing different. And, that right there, I was like, come on. I'm like, what's the deal there?
We have this whole new redesigned engine.
And then...
We just changed plastic parts.
Well, you got to give credit, though, for CP3 lasting for so long. Then they went to CP4 Dodge 2019, 2020, and then 21, I believe they went back to a CP4 or CP3, got rid of the 4.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, or however that worked.
21, 22, whatever the heck.
No, because mine didn't come with it.
Mine didn't, yeah.
Yours came with CP4.
Yes.
And then, but there was a recall for it, so all the CP4s got pulled out, they went back. Same horsepower, same numbers.
Yep.
CP3 did the same the job. And in my opinion, CP3's been in the truck since 2003.
And they work great. No one's ever talked smack about them or had an issue with them.
Exactly. But now it's a CP8.
You're saying that, yeah.
From what I've understood, I've never seen one. This is us talking in the shop, obviously. But that goes back to like the first year running, whatever. We don't even know what this thing's about. People say it's a variant of a CP4. Which a CP4 has been in Fords for a long time, and a lot of people gave us shit for getting Fords.
And Chevys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing where fuel additive apparently is the bread and butter of saving these things.
And what was that fuel that you told me about? Someone told you about that you saw?
Arch oil?
Arch oil.
Yeah, I'm trying to set up a deal for a discount code for the Minimal Boys, and then I want to get a deal with S&S for the DCR kit.
Okay.
So that's coming up in a meeting they said next week for the DCR kit. I'm hoping to get some traction with that, because ultimately, once you swap out the CP4, even if you're running additives, is I've seen CP4s on Marketplace. They're like, it works great. It's got 200,000 miles. I've had additives this whole time. And I'm like, I really hope that's something we can all expect.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It all comes back to crappy fuel.
Yep.
Trying to keep the thing cool, or not cool, but lubed up with good fuel, and additives apparently what does that. Cleans out the crap out of it, better lube, and...
Thank God for Nevada.
But even still, it's just the fuel isn't as good as it used to be.
No.
But...
Yeah, I always forget the name of the stuff I've been using.
I got the Hot Shot Secret. So Justin, he's got a 21, and his went to 21 Super Duty, and his went to 14K, and they said it was bad fuel that took out his pump.
What the?
So he's got a new one on. He's got 50,000 miles on the truck now,
Okay.
and he uses Hot Shot Secret. So that's something common that everybody always runs. But
Off the loop.
that's what you got?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, aside from what the Ford platform is delivering, honestly, I kind of wanted a 450 since 2020 when they came out with the 10-speed. But they've been running the 10-speed for 5 years before Dodge came out with an 8.
Yeah.
It's all good to stick with what works. It'd be nice if they stuck with what worked with the CP3. I guess we wouldn't complain there, but
yeah,
it's like...
Well, I feel like the injection pump part is with all the freaking nonsense that they have to keep up with all the emission. Like, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do that, we got to do this.
Maybe they'll go back to the 2020 standard or even lower.
I hope to God that they do. The emission standards is ridiculous, because you can get rid of every single emission on these trucks, and it puffs a bit of smoke when you start it up, and that's it.
I think the cleanest smelling diesel truck I've ever been around. Go back to like the 12 valve, like a second gen stock 12 valve. The exhaust just with the catalytic converter. Some of them had the EGR valve, but just with the stock cap, it just smelled like chlorine, nothing.
Yeah.
And then second gen 24 valve kind of had a little weird. I don't know what the deal was. They got a different cat, obviously. But then straight up, you know, like that silver truck, that donor one, it has a 12 valve cat on it, factory. Like it's the same exact cat.
You're like, yeah, I know what that frickin' pumpkin is.
No, same exact one, and those smelled the same. And then they came out with a 6.7, early 6.7, like my 08.
Yep.
When it was stock, worst freaking smell ever. You fire that thing up and go let it run for 5-10 minutes before you take off up the hill towing in the morning. That smell just clogged up the whole driveway, just crap. And 4th gen, kind of same deal. I didn't really care for that smell at all. I mean, it's still there. But then the 22 5500, I haven't been around your truck enough on cold morning, obviously. But
I smell my Dodge more than this.
Yeah.
Like, there's been a few times where I noticed it was kind of doing a regen. Like, you can, you know, tell the intake sound a little bit. This sucker was doing a regen. I don't even want to call it regen, just whatever the heck it's doing the other day.
It just sounds like the exhaust brakes on.
Yeah, it was like, it revved up. It didn't even rev up. The exhaust was just pushing harder at idle. And I was like, oh, it was like nice and warm. It was like 17 degrees up at Truckee. And I was able to stand there using the exhaust heat, keep them warm. I didn't smell a thing. I smelled nothing.
I'll give it credit. My 5500, the new one, it was the only newer one that I've been around.
My Dodge stinks.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you've smelled it a few times, and you're like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm like, I don't know why. Like, I can smell it more than this.
But anyway, that got a little bit off subject.
Yeah.
Talking about was the main things to go for the Ford. It's just what Dodge had been lacking, you know.
Yeah.
And that's like what really brought it home. That day that 10-speed came out, and it all came back to literally one of those early Toe Piglet videos. Of when he picked one of those up, he was like, "You see this? That grill? It means it's got the 10-speed in it." And I was like, "Okay." So like from that day on, like every time I saw one of these Fords going by, I was like, "Man, it's got 10-speed in it." And then I went and drove a couple of them. The 10-speed straight up feels like. Have you ever driven? I know that's as fairy as it sounds, but an electric powered anything, golf cart. That's simple. Nobody's going to talk crap on an electric golf cart, especially if you take that governor off of it. It freaking rips. So I've driven an electric dirt bike at the track. Like, I mean, I got 450s for years, but like the most fun I probably ever had on that dirt bike track was that electric rig, because it's got no clutch, it's got no shifting, it takes a lot of elements out of it, and it's got torque, power, everything through the rut.
Everywhere through.
Yeah, and not saying this is an electric rig, obviously it's not, but it has.
Would that be something?
There's 2,000 RPM difference between the shifts, and it just, what it translates to is it's just fluent through the gears. 200. Yeah.
Not 2,000.
Did I say 2,000?
Yeah.
No, 200. Well, I mean, if you really want to party.
It's actually a 3-speed.
It goes back to the 90s.
Yeah, no, I can't. There's a lot of the times where this truck will shift and you forget, you don't even think about it, and you're like, I'm already in 7th gear. I'm already in 8th gear.
Yeah.
And it just
got across the intersection.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so consistently fluid. And yeah, if you, like I said, I think it was in this one, if you have nothing on for toe settings, it will skip gears.
Up and down.
Up and down. Exactly. I feel like all this started because this truck fell in my lap, and I think we actually got a good rendition of what these trucks are actually capable of, because I started using this thing the way I am, you know, and then your face absolutely lit up when we finally got to the haul video with the prime tag.
It took a year.
It took a year. Yeah. So, I mean, and literally right after that, we came back home, and he's like, all right, my mind's made up.
Yeah. I'm
going to go start cleaning out the 5500.
Dude, that was a rough day. I'm not going to lie.
I couldn't believe it myself. I was like, okay. I'm like, well, he's probably going to cool down a little bit, think about it. No, he's like, cool, I got this, called the dealer, got everything. Bam, done.
Yeah.
Week later, nothing showed up.
I think it was a little bit.
I'm over-exaggerating. Maybe a week and 3 days.
It takes me a little while to get around to editing some of these videos, so by the time...
Life happens.
Just editing that excitement of like, all right, we need to if we're going to do something, mind you, the 5500 tags were due, tires were getting close. Probably had summer. Yeah, and I was like, you know what? If I'm going to pull the trigger on it, let's try to do it before the tags are due for one. Because right then, with the weight sticker and just the tags and everything.
California in general.
Yeah, it's like the commercialized end of it. There's $2,000 just in tags. And I don't know what the Ford's going to be, you know, but it's like that just rolls right into buying a truck. And I was like, well, there's money ahead on it right now.
Bam, discount.
Yeah, that's how you make one of those decisions happen. You got to do some weird math. But, you know, it's like I had driven enough Ford so I knew the Trans was going to be good for what I was hoping. But then didn't expect to get another bougie one. We got 2 Platinum sitting here.
Yeah, this is definitely the yuppiest truck I've ever had in my life.
Probably one of the whole roof is glass.
Straight up.
Never thought. But I got to rewind to tell the story of when you got this, not to go into details of it, but just the fact that Taylor, my wife, and I were in Ireland on our honeymoon. And so the time difference is like 8 hours, 9 hours, something like that. And so my math is all off on where I'm at. And he sends a text about this Ford. And he's like, look what I got. Out of the blue.
Didn't we talk about anything?
Yeah, and I'm so confused because I'm jet lagged, trying to read this text, doing the math on when he actually said it versus when I got it. And I was like, dude, what is happening right now? Yeah, but that was definitely the turning point because, like Ryan, he's talked about it, like, because he had that 23 Ram 3500 I did that tow video on. That thing did, I mean, I wouldn't say
it did its job.
Yeah, I mean, it pulled everything.
There was no change again. For all these new years, there was minimal change.
It felt solid, though. Okay. Like, it wasn't a bad truck, but it was still
brand new.
Yeah, it had like, I don't think it had 1,000 miles on it. People were like, hey, hot rodding. I was like, I don't think the owner don't give it, you know?
Yeah.
But
you don't even know how he drives.
Even talking with him, like, months later, he's like, dude, how's the air conditioning doing in your truck? And he's like, I just rode a Ford the other day. And he's like, that thing, because here it gets like 110. Like in the morning, sometimes I feel like, I'm like, dude, like, turn the heater off in the house or something. I was like, oh, no, there's just in the house having trouble. But he starts talking about the AC and it being better on the Ford. And then I kind of just like, man, maybe one of these days I'll get a 450. And lo and behold, he sold the 3500.
Yeah.
And he got a Ford.
Yep.
And like, I've talked to a lot of my Dodge buddies about getting a Ford. And then when you got one, just happened to stand into that deal, I was like, once I get a test drive in this thing, see what it's really about, it's either going to say, hell yeah, or it's going to be like, all right, well, we did good, we avoided that truck. But after driving it, just the effortlessness of it. And talk about, what's his name, Wes?
Yeah. So
he's got a Diamond C.
Yep.
38
foot Diamond C.
What's he haul with it, and how long did he run his, it was 2020?
Yeah, so it was a 19 or a 20, but
it was a 10-speed truck.
It was a 10-speed truck, and one of the biggest, like, things was when he told me, he's like, I had that truck for 100,000 miles and it never went to the dealer.
That's pretty cool.
I'm like, that's cool, right? Like, that's
what's he tow with?
Well, he tows the same stuff that we do. He has a 309. He's got skid steers. He got, like, at the time, compactor. For a short while, he had a 310, like my excavator. Like, he used the truck. He also has big rigs and everything, but he used that truck like we do with ours. When he got rid of that truck, he traded it back to the dealer because they gave him more money than what he bought the truck for in the beginning. And then he went and bought a 2024 450.
Oh, has he still got it?
No, he got rid of that. He bought a big rig with that money, with that truck.
Yeah.
He got offered another good, he makes money on truck somehow. So he's like, and he has Dodges too. You know, he's in between. But I'm like, for a guy that I know how he uses his trucks and it's doing him well and he has like no complaints, I'm like, that's testament number one where I'm like, all right, cool. And there's people that you take their word for it.
Yeah.
And soon enough, I mean, I think I've only put 17,000 miles on this truck so far. It's been doing.
I got 1,000.
Yeah, it's been doing great. Yeah, I'm sitting at 25,000 miles right now.
Everybody wants to know how many miles are on mine.
2.
I ain't gonna tell them.
Okay.
Just leave it secret forever.
Yeah, I like it. Just blot out the dash like the old time.
Yeah, right.
People
just
do.
don't even need to know.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, to all the people that are like, why? All these years you've been just. Hopefully, people give me some credit for the jokes they're throwing at me for buying a Ford and Ford guy jokes and the guy in the freaking skirt dancing calling it a Ford guy and stuff like that. It's like, hopefully, give me some credit for some of the jokes because I think I had to write some of them. But it's kind of funny, like
you are then.
Well, it's like Tyson Workplay TV. You ever watch him? He's a Ford guy. Been a Ford guy forever.
We had him buy a Dodge.
He's got several.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's still got his 3500 Ford Chin, which is, I mean, a regular cab Ford Chin. Hell yeah. Like, it's not going to win races, but it's got excellent exhaust brake. That's a possibly, possibly stronger than a 5th gen somehow. Yeah. And it's a regular cab. Just simple. Who cares? It's probably cheap enough that, honestly, you can get a Ford Chin for probably the same price as a 12 out now. But
probably cheaper.
Yeah. He had a 21 450, brand new, custom ordered, and he did good when he sold it because he bought it in 21 and weird market. Yeah. I think he sold it and went to Florida. He's from Canada. So he made money on that truck. But yeah, for a while, only 8 people knew about my truck, and for like a year, like 3 people knew about yours. Yep. I wasn't posting anything. Yeah, but it was funny how like for weeks it went from 8 people knowing about it. Taylor's folks don't even know about the Ford. That's funny. Yeah. They don't watch any of your videos. Yeah, I know. But it went from 8 people knowing about it to 50,000 in a couple of days, and I was like, oh damn. So it's like I already sent. Tyson was one of the 8. He's like, dude, did you really? I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. He's like, I miss my 450. He's like, I really wish I hadn't sold it. He's got dump trucks and stuff now, so I'm sure that money went into funding those big boys. He's doing the right decision. But it's like, quite a few other people are snagging Fords, and it's like, what the heck? And it's not because, well, it is, just the base of the truck is just, it's there. It does the job, but it's like, the other companies just aren't going to their level. No, and more and more, like I think if I like already said this a little bit, but Ford keeps on progressing. They keep on pushing. They keep on pushing. They keep on pushing. And I think my brother told me is like they know what truck they're going to build next now, 5 years down the road or something like that. Whereas I don't. But well, it also comes back to the fact that Ford's, I think, and I'd say you probably back it up. They're aiming for what the user wants, not what. Like Stellantis, that's their biggest downfall. Is it's a company across wherever, and they like you go across the pond, like they either have a tiny car or they have Sprinter vans. Sprinter van either has a flatbed on it or it's got I saw like one gooseneck ball, and it was a Sprinter freaking van. Where'd you find that at? Yeah, it is literally like a motorhome. Or you have a tiny car, or you just got a full-on semi. And their semis over there are actually quite a bit more advanced than the shit we got. Dude, yeah, I've seen that's a whole. Yeah, I've seen. I like their trucks out there. They're pretty dang cool. They're big rig trucks. Yes. Yeah. But they're lorries. Yeah. Like if you see like a truck over there, our caliber truck is like. What the heck? No. It would be like a 1500 Ram or like a Ranger maybe. Oh, for a truck in general. He's got a truck and he's towing like a Mini with it. Yeah. Like you look at the Mini, you're like, that thing's like 2,500 pound Mini. It's like one of those at the auction that you tipped over trying to get your tent. Yeah. It's like, what the hell is that? That's what I think you sent me that on Instagram. It was like the OBS Fords or the 6-liter Fords in Germany. There's like, oh man, I thought so. I thought you sent it to me. I don't know. I sent it. I don't know. There's like a bunch of these like 05 and under Fords. Really? This group of guys own them in Germany. I was like, that's kind of cool. I didn't know something like that was out there. You got to give Mike's truck over there in France some credit. He lives in South France, which is apparently a lot different. If you guys didn't know, I did go to France in January. Don't tell them that. For reference, because you go over there and you think things are weird here. No, beautiful here. And it's weird, anybody in the States, they hear you from California, they're like, You tell people in France you're from California, movie star, famous. You live in Hollywood? Yeah. And it's like, you look at some of the stuff, it's like they got, like their car models are like, the California. And you're like, oh, that's kind of, why would you put that on there? Like, oh, you don't like California? I'm like, no. Well, anyway, the point being is, what the trucks that we want over here, I know they have designers and everything on this side of the pond that are like, hopefully doing something productive, but they're not really satisfying what everybody's hoping, and that's just to blow the competition out of the water.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If they would have came out with a 7.2 Cummins in there and they're like, listen, boys, 501 horsepower statement, standard. You've been like,
it can't be that hard, dude. I swear.
Even if, like, I traded in a paid off truck to go to a different truck. I bet you a bunch of other people would have done the same thing to get into a 501 horsepower rig and put a payment on top of it.
Yeah. At least I would have been a little bit more excited about the Dodge coming out. That's why I find it funny that there's so many things that people believe in before Dodge comes out with their next truck, because they're like, oh, they're doing this, oh, they're doing that. I'm like, you guys all suck at assuming what's next with Dodge. And Dodge, again, sucks at getting their trucks out to market at a good time. Ford is like, probably right now, like, hey, we got the new 2026 out. You're like, sick. Oh crap, you did all this stuff to it? They don't even make a big deal about it. Like,
I don't even,
you wanted a truck, right? We're just gonna do you right.
Probably the emissions crap is always going to be a restraint on dependability, which always sucks. But fuel injection delivery, there could be room for improvement on probably a lot of the brands right now. The early common rail stuff, there was trouble with filtration. And so I think the newer trucks have gotten better about that, but then the fuel's gotten worse. But to think about what we would expect out of the next round of trucks, it's like the Ford crew cab. In a sense, the cab and just the overall dimensions of it isn't too much bigger than a Dodge.
Dude, yeah, that's
the inside. The inside is
freaking
like stepping
massive
into another universe. It's weird, which is not something. Yeah,
all the above.
and there's something that I will say. I'm 5'10". I'm not super tall. You're like 9 feet compared to me, but it's like when I get into any of the other trucks, it's almost like I had like a sense to I want to be bigger because I'm driving a bigger truck, you know. And I got a bum shoulder, so I had to get this, steering wheel up nice and tight, But it's like I always felt like I kind of wanted to ride a little bit taller in the Dodge. And the Ford, honestly, couldn't care. It just, I sat in it, kind of the seat was a little bit nice. Steering wheel could come back to you, so you didn't have to be all the way up in the dash with it. And I was like, the bougie steering wheel.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, pretty soon I realized I'm just like kicking back in this truck. The visibility with the weird Ford door hump thing, you can see better out the sides, and it seemed like the straight cut hood, you can see out better, and it just like...
Yeah, like when you sat in mine for the first time, you're like, oh damn, like you sit in, like on mine, I like sitting deep.
Peterbilt.
I'm a Peterbilt driver.
Yeah.
Even when I had that Kenworth, that T800 for a little while, freaking cut the seat, lowered it down even further. I'm like, who needs airbags? The rear of the cab's got it. I do like all the functions on and the fanciness. I mean, I know a lot of people in the Dodge world would be like, why don't they have the steering wheel console?
The telescoping.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
Okay. There's so much on this truck that we absolutely do.
I know.
The Platinum system is just kind of...
I still don't even know what half my buttons do.
No. I sat in it for about 10 minutes the other day. I did turn off the exit feature, which takes the steering wheel, puts it back in the dash, and slides the seat back in case you're packing some extra weight, you can get out of the truck easier. I turned that off because I was just like, you know what? I set my buttons so that if somebody does else drive a truck, hit number 1 goes back to it. Set the clock to, not military time. And, I was like, all right.
12 a.m. is 12 a.m.
I was like, we are done here. We've got the seat where we like it. We've got the amp steps turned back on, a little detail.
Yeah, man.
Like, what the heck's up with that? I don't know. So, amp steps, pretty nice upgrade. Don't need it. Don't need telescoping.
Yeah.
Don't need massaging seats. Don't need any of that crap.
Sorry. When I got this truck and I had the amp steps or the Ford, whatever renditions of it, I wouldn't put them on my Dodge because I got fanboyed on those. Those are kind of nice.
You need a consultant when it comes to when you get a paycheck and you sell them down.
You do.
Yeah.
I work that way.
But I don't, oh, that's one thing I forgot with the injectors on the new truck, on the new Dodge.
Okay.
The guy on the video, the mechanic guy, he said these were the similar style to the Ford injectors. Because the Ford ones, as you know, they're external kind of deal.
Yeah.
And they were the same kind of sticks.
Huh.
Yeah. So, based on they can achieve higher pressure or something like that, I don't know. I just want to put that in there because that's one thing that I wanted to point out. But at the end of the day,
I never did watch that teardown video. I saw a little snippet of it, and I was like,
Yeah.
next. I don't know. They never interested me. The whole Dodge
Yeah.
has.
It was a good video. It was kind of neat to see that.
I should still learn.
You got to appreciate the fact that they took
They
a
did
brand new
that.
truck, decabbed it, tore it all down, and like all the way to the lifters. You
Yeah.
know, and just to see what the Cummins had that was different. And
When have you ever seen Dodge do something like that?
Dodge don't even want to call people. They called Edison Motors and had him out to look at their trucks, but I don't know. Another thing, what was I going to say? How are the Fords making so much horsepower? Let's end off on that.
Okay.
What's the difference? I know the displacement is the same.
Yep.
The biggest contributing factor I think we can voice and agree with is instead of air-to-air intercooler, it's air-to-water.
Yes.
So instead of your turbo is hot, it's spinning, it's producing charge pressure going to your intake. You got to run through an intercooler. Dodge's got a big, thick one down the bumper, and that's what they've been doing for a long time.
Yeah.
Air-to-air has been very common. In the racing world, the guys will do air-to-water, and sometimes they'll even have ice in the tank.
Oh yeah.
But Ford has air-to-water, which the cooling factors is way higher. Just for like if you're out on a cold morning and you get your hands wet, washing them off or something like that, and then you're walking, like how much colder your hands get. Just for a brief example, that is one thing that will help out a bunch.
Yes, I mean they can pack a lot more cooling into your intake of the truck with so much less room and just being more efficient.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Humidity is not going to be a factor. The outdoor temperature, minimal factor. You have nearly the same cooling capabilities no matter if you're at 0 degree temp to 100 degrees outside. It's a lot harder to get that saturation in there because you have a cooler that's being cooled by a cooler to send cool water into your intake system. And you're not losing that efficiency. I know that's got to be a huge boost in numbers into where it's like, all right, this truck has 500 horsepower. This truck does not get to keep all 500 horsepower for that 2, 5, 7, 10 minute long grade that you're going up. It's trying to hold those numbers up as long as it can before it starts derating. And I'll tell you this, I feel this truck derate less aggressively than the Dodge. 100%. The Dodge will be like, you just fall in its face. This truck is just like, we can hold it. It keeps on holding it. It keeps on holding it. It's like it knows when to limit itself a little bit quicker than going all full bore. It's like it's going for the marathon, not for the sprint.
Out of Ford.
On the Ford.
Yeah, that's backwards there.
Yeah.
I think not a lot of people realize the air kind of a difference like that, how that actually really changes things.
Big time.
But I always kind of figured they just turned diesel into nitrous somehow in that concoction.
Propane injection?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. My buddy back in the day, he had propane injection on his 7.3. And he was like, oh yeah, it's set at like 2,300 RPM and you feel it hit. And I was like, I didn't feel the propane ball in one of these.
Yeah.
But
there's one thing I want to mention. I know they fixed it on the new Fords because they listen. The infotainment is the one that's on your RPM, mile per hour. They did fix that, but that is one thing that I want to change on this truck to just get the edge scanner with live.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, the exhaust braking part's not that big of a deal. You can tell the exhaust brake is engaging because your boost on your turbo gauge does go up.
I don't confuse a lot of people. That's too much.
It's just the way it works. But I don't like that it doesn't have that full rundown list of your engine temp, oil temp, transmission temp, oil pressure, and your boost and stuff like that all in one that the Dodge has just in that one list.
In case you want to be a super trucker.
Yeah, exactly. You got to know what your truck's doing even though you can't adjust it.
The beauty of a stock truck is
you don't have to worry about it.
It's supposed to do all that for you. So like running a deleted truck, everybody, get it deleted. Well, then you have to monitor everything because you're running
there's no more D-rate.
Yeah, there's your foot's the D-rate, but there's like a line between like it's doing stuff more efficient, but then it's got a chance to kill itself when you when your foot's the gauge.
I mean, how cool would it be if you had like a factory OEM tuned delete to where it keeps the D rate, keeps the truck literally as stock as it gets?
I'm pretty sure a lot of the new deletes are just a sensor boost forward kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We won't talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
There was something I really wanted to talk about that I thought was pretty cool. Give me a second to rewind the clock here. Something that we really needed to mention. I had it in my...
A 3-inch hitch is very
Oh, yeah,
not
that's-
necessary. They changed back to a 2.5 on the newer ones.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's where I'm going to go after this and go buy a 3-inch hitch
Yeah.
because the sleeve is kind of crap. There's a key thing I really needed to mention. I have to walk around on that one.
It doesn't take a half hour to start up when it's cold outside.
Yeah.
No,
that's
is that
exactly
right?
it. That is it. Okay. So my 0459 is religiously consistent about just as it's not as quick as a first gen, but it'll fire up really damn quick, like consistently the same. And so my 4th gen 3500, it takes a little bit longer, but it's a and I'm like, all right, that would be nice. Every once in a while, it'll fire up like first hit, and I'm like, cool. And there's been quite a few, like the 5th gen Cummins ones that Ryan's truck, it cranked like a Cornell's truck.
Yeah.
Cranked one of his. He's got 2 of them. But like, you get in it. I'm like, that's not that crazy. But sometimes it'll even longer than that. And I'm like, that is some kind of bull crap. And my 5500, the new one, it did that for a little bit. And it ended up being the upper fuel filter was just a little bit loose. But still, it did it more with the fuel filter obviously being loose because it lost a little prime.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, it would long crank. And I was like, man, what the heck?
Like, why?
And when he brought your Ford over, even Bob Jason, he's got a 22, 3500. It'll long crank. Just like long enough that you kind of go, come on with you.
Yeah.
But these Fords, I don't know if you've been in like an auto shut-off car that does it at the economy mode crap.
Yo. Yeah.
Like those things fire up quick. And that's how these freaking Fords fire up.
Whoa.
Yeah, it just...
Consistent. In there.
Yeah.
Quick.
That was probably one of the coolest things when I got in yours. And
You're like, oh, it's on.
it's like your finger hasn't even left the button and the
Pretty-
truck's running.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's nice. And yeah, that was definitely one thing. I don't know what the new Cummins is going to be, but I always kind of attested the 6.7 displacement, no matter what breed, was going to rely on horsepower to get it up there, or rely on RPM to get the horsepower, I mean. And I always kind of figured, however the common rail injection thing was on these newer rigs, instead of mechanical, like back in the day that started so quick, I always figured for some reason it just needed just that little bit extra time to crank.
Yeah.
When Ford was like, no, you don't.
This is a normal chore.
Yeah,
I know how to do this.
So glad you said that because that was literally what it was.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's probably one thing I feel like we haven't spoken about. No, they can comment on it. You guys didn't even reach this most important part. Oh, I mean, I thought the headlights were bright on the Dodge.
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
freaking, but they ain't got anything on Ford. Trying not to cuss. Yo, one thing I will complain about is why I changed mine is their fog lights are subpar compared to the Dodge.
No, mine are on.
Yeah,
that was. Well, okay.
They don't have as wide of a beam.
They might be super freaking bright fog lights.
Yeah.
But compared to the standard headlight, let alone the high beam that Ford has.
Yeah, you compare it to something even greater.
So it's like, in my 5500, its stance, it felt like everybody wanted a high beam anyway.
Yeah.
So I just left it on auto high so people saw you dimmed it down before they came at you. So I felt like, all right, that thing was pretty bougie. But this thing, holy crap. If somebody's high beaming you,
oh, dude,
you light them up and
you're giving them some radiation by the time they pass you.
Turn them into a piece of toast, this thing left in for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the headlights are pretty baller.
Yeah.
I guess we could talk for another 3 hours about
Dude,
this.
we
but
really
got stuff to do.
can. We should just do one of these whenever the heck I'm back in town, I guess.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll end this one here.
It's springtime.
Yeah. Everybody's kind of, why'd you get black? Dude, if I was going to get a new truck, it was going to be black.
It's his truck. Go buy your own.
Yeah, no kidding. But I think it's pretty cool because the crew cab's black, both Challengers are black, the Charger's going to be black. Might as well have the other hot rod black.
That's good.
If I haven't posted the video, by the way, I did tow a backhoe the other day, decent size, and the Ford held it at 55 mile an hour doing, yeah, what percentage do you think that Alta coming down 80 is?
That's 6.
6?
Yeah, that's a 5 to 6.
Yeah, there's one leg of it that's actually pretty, I don't know.
At the top, dripping down that Alta,
Yeah, from Alta down there.
that's a solid 6 going down that. Yeah.
It's not bad.
No.
55? Yeah. And it held it at 55. I was nervous, to be honest. I thought I was going to take the back road to avoid the hill. But anyway, we're going to end it here.
Thank you, guys.
Tell Tavit, Tavit, whatever you want to be called. Chicken,
Yeah.
David, you call it
I haven't heard that in a while.
chicken or David?
Chicken.
Oh, yeah. Not since Vegas of 06. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
Thank you guys. If we miss something, comment it below. We'll try to do one of these podcast deals every once in a while. We've been trying to do this one for about a year. I think this was somewhat productive.
Not bad.
And, yeah, next time we'll put headlights on our table. See you guys. All right, let's get out of here. We got shit to do. Oh my god. Yeah. Hit your button. You got your button?
Yeah, I got my button.
Fire yours up. My buttons are in the office.
Oh wait, you talking about the? I can roll down my window.
Yeah, show them that. Watch this. Roll down the windows. Somewhere here.
I think I'm doing that. Am I doing it right?
Unlock and then hold down unlock.
Usually I can do it. Am I an idiot today? Probably.
Hit it once and then hit it again and hold it.
Oh.
Yeah, look at that. Mine too.
I beat you.
Okay. But the how quick does it start?
Look, it's going to sound the exact same on mine. I mean, what is that, like a rotation and a half?
I think it started before you hit the button.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you. Appreciate it.